In general, you are the most valuable thing in your life. But what makes you valuable is the way you think. And in order for that to be good, you need to maintain yourself and you need to maintain your brain in a good way.
On this episode, we speak to Anass, the Motivator. Now, Anass is a 19-year-old motivational speaker. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Habit Hackers Rebel Radio. Now, Anass is a 19-year-old motivational speaker. Anass is also a millennial, somebody that grew up in the time that we knew now and really knows no other. For anyone who isn't a millennial, the idea of being a 19-year-old motivational speaker, being confident enough and you're having your thoughts refined enough to explain and motivate others might seem a bit foreign or a bit unusual. I was keen to sit down with Anass for that reason. I'm trying to understand a couple of things. Is where does the desire come from to be a motivational speaker at 19? Most 19-year-olds, when I was a 19-year-old, you really just thought about me, myself, and I. Maybe the people just round about you. But the idea of motivating others, of speaking to a crowd, that was beyond me and my friends and beyond most 19-year-olds. The other interesting part is an insight into a millennial mindset. Many people talk about the disconnect between our generation, generations before, and these new millennials, these guys and girls that grew up with technology at their fingertips and living in a very different time to what seems familiar. What's the impact of that? What does it mean to be a millennial? How do the millennials see the world? What do they think they have at their fingertips? What do they recognize as uniquely millennial? What do they recognize as just the way of the world? That interesting combination allowed for a great conversation and great insight into an entrepreneur's mindset.
There was a point in my life where it was very up and down, so I suffered a lot of problems at school. I was always the outsider to the society's norm. I didn't like to fit in with the group. I tried hard to fit in with the group, and I think that's where this whole motivational thing branched out for me. I knew what that felt like.
I would call that the entrepreneurial journey. That a lot of entrepreneurs felt like an outsider or felt disconnected from their environment, their surroundings, their generation, and they chose entrepreneurship because they find a lot of people and they find a lot of habits that could allow them to be themselves in a different environment.
I think everyone's an entrepreneur in their own sense, because obviously an entrepreneur is someone who has an idea and they want to advance on it and they want to take it forward. And I feel like everybody in life has their own project that they want to undertake. And it always takes risk. It always takes challenges, financially, mentally, emotionally. There's always a challenge. I remember once I stumbled across Eric Thomas, perhaps, in my opinion, the greatest motivational speaker ever. Like him and Les Brown, those two, you don't get better than them. So Eric Thomas, I remember I watched pretty much his most famous video, which is How Bad Do You Want It speech.
And when you get to the point where all you want to do is be successful, as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And I'm here to tell you, number one, that most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep. Some of you love sleep more than you love success. And I'm here to tell you today, if you're going to be successful, you've got to be willing to give up sleep.
I was 14. I took a pen. I remember I had a pen and a piece of paper, and I sat in the kitchen and I replayed the video about 6-7 times just so I made sure I got everything in my head. And I wrote down, I remember the title I wrote was Where Do I Want to Be? And I wrote up down like a list of possibilities. So at the top I would write what I want to be is dentist, doctor, pharmacist. Then of those 3, I branched them off into 3 different ways, and I was like, okay, what's the initial step to get there? And then I branched those into 3 and said, how do I get there? How do I get there, and so forth. And then from there, I said to myself, it's not so much about working hard is good, but working smart is even better. So I said to myself, if I want to stand any chance of getting where I want to go, then things have to change. I need to, if I want to, be somewhere that I've never been before, I have to do something that I've never done before. And for me, I had to change the way I thought. I had to change the way I acted. And especially the way I carried myself as an individual, because, you have, like, I remember there was a very good quote. It was, in order to be successful, you have to act successful. So for me, that was like, I have to show that kind of mindset. I have to show that I am capable of carrying a successful, how can I say, a successful personality, someone who is open-minded, open to criticism. And for me, when I started, after I took this mindset, it took me about a month to implement afterwards. It was a consistent thing of waking up in the morning, looking in the mirror and just telling yourself, you can do this. It's not that hard. Don't expect to get it done in one day. Don't expect to get it done in 1,000 years. Just take it one step at a time. And then soon this kind of like snowball effect will happen and everything starts coming together. And there are points where I thought, where it did unhinge, but it's simple. You just slow down, put the piece back in, you start all over again. And I remember when I got to my GCSEs, that's when I really saw the effect of how watching that video changed everything for me. I was like, you know what? I'm working productive. I'm thinking productive. I'm, making efficient connections with people. So for me, that was the turning point. It was just that whole kind of, I had to sit down with myself and not with someone else. And I just need to know what I was capable of doing and where I wanted to be, and just sort of planning out how I had to get it, if that makes sense.
The idea that people might be met with when they're hearing this is that their mindset's even important. Why is mindset first? And then what happens after that when you get your mindset right?
The second you're born, you're dying. And you only have one life. I think, to be honest with you, the mind is perhaps one of our biggest asset as a human being. Like, in general, you are the most valuable thing in your life. But what makes you valuable is the way you think. Your brain controls all your thoughts, your emotions, what you do and how you do it. And in order for that to be good, you need to maintain yourself and you need to maintain your brain in a good way. So for me, I think to myself, if I can promote a good understanding of how I want to be, if I can promote a good structure of how to achieve success and how I want to achieve my definition of success, and I can plan it out mentally and then physically, that's fine. Because you don't want all brawn and no brains, because you're going nowhere. You just, you're punching in circles. However, if you can think about it and you say, you know what, I need to sit down, I need to think, this is A, B, and C. In order to get A, I need to do this and that. And to B, this and that. And once it's all planned, go. And then obviously you're going to have a hiccup somewhere, because that's life. Life's not plain sailing. You come back to the drawing board, you rethink, and you go, and sooner or later, your brain's going to pick up and think, oh, this has happened before. All I need to do is this. You don't need to stop. And it's kind of that whole building pathways in your brain. It's not so much the product that matters as much as the process, because the process is what changes your life. The product you can achieve at any point in your life, but the process changes you as a character. And if it's that whole, the process changes you mainly mentally and physically. Physically is a side award, but the mental side of things, how you think, how you approach an obstacle in life, that's the key.
That gap between having that feeling of being an outsider or an outcast or not quite fitting in, and then you're at this place now where you're looking to, you're taking the words of E.T. and Les Brown and all those, and you've absorbed it, and clearly to the point where you want to share it. What did, in that moment, that obviously said, right, this is a focus I need to have. What was the process after that?
So for anyone who's listening to this and they're not really sure what to do, my first recommendation, sit down, ask yourself, who are you? What are your values? And where do you want to go? You have to really think about it, because it's not those kind of things you could just half-hearted be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Let's go. That's why most, New Year's resolutions, they last for a little while and then they just die out. Because it's that whole kind of, okay, for the first week, I'm fully motivated, join the gym, great. Second week, 75%. Third week, 50%. By the fourth week, you're not gone. So it's that whole kind of idea that, oh, I need to calm down. I need to think. Is this where I want to do? Is this where I want to go? Is this what I want to do? How am I going to do it? How am I going to think about doing it? And once that's all planned out, go for it. That's the way to do it. You don't want to just go in guns blazing, not knowing what you're doing. Because that's 90% of people dream, and then only 10% take the first step.
From my point of view, so I'm 29 now, and for anybody my age or probably above or maybe a little bit younger, is we didn't grow up with YouTube. We didn't grow up with we grew up with Les Brown, but we didn't grow up with Eric Thomas. We definitely didn't grow up with 100 different speakers producing content.
No, absolutely.
In 2017, everybody has the ability to create their own TV network if they want to. That didn't exist a decade ago. For people like me, or for people much older, someone 40, 50, 60, maybe you could educate them on what the world is like from your perspective. When you're 19, what do you believe you have in front of you? What do you think you have access to, and what do you recognize that maybe is uniquely a millennial privilege?
Well, I was brought up in the millennial generation. So everything nowadays is technological, everyone grows up with iPads, iPhones, all kinds of devices. And the fact is they're so reliant on technology. And the problem is with that is the whole social media aspect. Everyone relies on social media. Sort of, that's how they base their acceptance. They base their acceptance on how well they're received on social media, how many people like their posts, how many people share their posts. And because of that, it causes, it can go one of two ways. Either it works and you get an excessive ego boost where all of a sudden you think you're the best person in the world, especially when you've done absolutely nothing. And it can lead to very bad traits such as, disrespecting people and whatnot. Or the other way around is you take the effects of not being respected socially very badly. And as a result, it can have a massive knock on your confidence, and it could lead to social anxiety. I knew what that felt like, not socially accepted. And I was like, this isn't right. The fact that people base who they are on other people's opinions. Don't live your life to other people's standards. Live it to your own. You were born to have yours, and they had theirs. And for me, in my head, that's a great concept, because so many people are living each other's lives, but they're not living their own. And for me, I wanted to be like, if I can be a piece in the puzzle that helps them understand who they are, where they want to go, and I wanted a part of that. So I think for me, that's kind of where this whole mindset began, to be honest with you. As you can tell, I'm not like fully British. I don't have full British. I'm foreign origins. So my family come from, they had grown up in a time period where they had nothing in terms of technology. It was all chalkboards and, having to sell your old books for new books and things like this. Nowadays, we live in a world where even, everything is accessible online. Like, somebody could find all your information in a matter of minutes if they know where to look. And the way I see it is I have every single possible resource in front of me that could potentially make me the greatest person in mankind. And it's not just me. Every single millennial or every single human being now has all the resources in the world to do what they want. It's there. They just have to search it in Google and it comes up, at least 100 searches.
It's interesting that you say this, because anyone who considers themselves to be older than a millennial, they often say this, that there's this massive disconnect. There's consultants that will meet with businesses and teach them how to communicate with millennials. Like, it's a crazy thing. Like, I'll teach you how to speak to a 22-year-old or a 20-year-old. And they'll make a full earning trying to bridge the gap between the old guys and the young guys. 1984 is when you become a millennial. Anything older than that, you're not. But anyone born a year before that is exactly the same as the person after that. It's a very gradual thing. So being 29, being 39, 49, whatever, there's always the majority of people wasting resources, wasting opportunity, making excuses rather than trying to find a way. That isn't a uniquely millennial thing. It exists in my generation before, I'm sure. It's a very big question, but why do you think people do that?
It's a known fact that it's easier to complain than it is to actually get started. Like, complaining is free. Like, I always say, whenever I talk to people, I always say to them, listen, the dream is free. You're free to dream as much as you want. You can dream as big as you want. You can dream as small as you want. It's entirely up to you. It's free. The cost is when you try and start doing it. That's when it takes determination. That's when it's going to take tears. It's going to take a lot of pain. Maybe not physically, but mentally. It's going to strain you and it's going to push you out of your comfort zone. And it's a shame that I see, like, I go to lectures, obviously I'm at university, and I see a lot of people, they're they're in the lecture hall and they're paying absolutely no attention. So I'm thinking to myself, you're paying £9,000 to doze off? Like, why did you come in the first place? Like, if you wanted to do something else, then, do something else. And then don't come. This is the thing. What really annoys me is when I see people who don't do the work, and at the end of the day, they complain, oh, why didn't I get the good grades? It's how you acted before. One of my favorite quotes ever is that your present purchases the future. And if you waste your present, then don't even dream about having this future that you were like, oh yeah, I want a nice car, I want to have a big house. That doesn't come based on prayers. That comes based on hard work, putting in hours and hours behind the scenes, not even in the light, behind the scenes. And just determination and dedication. And for me, I was always a slave to the system where if I say I'll do it tomorrow, then that's okay. That's a good enough excuse. And it comes down to, consistency. In order to overcome excuses, you have to have this consistency to continually keep doing what you love. If people just stuck to it past the point where that excitement of the dream dies down, slowly but surely you'll see these little, just little pieces of your dream coming together. And it's those little pieces that make the difference. You can't expect to get a large chunk of it at once. So yeah, you can say you're not seeing results, but results don't come instantly. They'll come in a month, 3 months, 5 months, whole year maybe. And obviously, there are reasons deeper than the generic reasons. Oh, I was too tired, I'm too lazy. People do have problems in life, family problems, relationship problems, whatever it might be. But that, obviously, initially it's difficult, but it can be used as a drive for what you initially started to do.
That's what I talk about a lot. That's what Habit Hackers is all about, really. Instead of the word consistency, I would just say habits. Do you ever see yourself being anything other than an entrepreneur or motivator, or do you think this is something you'll do forever?
It's as cliche as it sounds. I want to, because I definitely know that if the right people have the right thing said to them, then this world could be in a lot better, in a much better place. And that's obviously it's a massive goal, but the saying goes, if you want to change the world, you change yourself first, and the world changes around you. So for me, I think that's that journey that while I change myself, hopefully the world around me will change, and I can encourage other people to change themselves into the image that they want to be. And as long as they can develop that kind of acceptance within themselves, I think that's the main way to go. And I think that's why I see myself as an entrepreneur, because I'm willing to take a chance on people, whether they're willing to take a chance on someone else or themselves, to be honest with you. And I think that people require a belief from someone, if not from themselves. And I think for me, if it was me, I think that would be something that's fundamental. That's something I would want.
Does this journey that you're on give you fulfillment?
It gives me fulfillment beyond words that I can describe to you. Obviously my life is only just beginning at 19. To answer your question, yes, fulfillment for me is the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this. Not even, fame or building the brand. It is the sense of fulfillment that people are benefiting from what I'm saying, and hopefully they will continue to benefit from me. As my individual goal, or is it just a generic mindset? Individually, it's more of a, putting myself and other people in a better place. So when I wanted to initially start the whole motivational thing, I just wanted to help people who were in my position before, especially where the millennial, I say millennial, but obviously that's my age group, that's my target group. The millennials that I know don't tend to take advantage of their position. So my end goal is to at least impact one person's life permanently for the good. If I do that, I can say to myself, you know what, I did right by me.
If you're listening to this point, thank you. I appreciate you taking the 30-40 minutes out of your schedule, out of your day to listen in and hopefully grow. If you enjoyed it, please get involved in the Habit Hackers private Facebook group. This is a group of entrepreneurs and people looking to grow and learn the right habits, and a great community in which to share your thoughts, hear others, and learn and grow. We also have habithackerplanner.com. We have a new planner out, launching in the beginning of 2018. This is a planner that, unlike other planners, allows you to form the habits that are going to cultivate success in your life. It helps you cultivate gratitude, goal setting, time management, personal management within time, and so much more than that.